What's up guys, C2113 here, and in today's video we're going to be unboxing the GOCOM G9 IP67 rated FRS radios. Alright guys, so these right here are the GOCOM G9s. This is a 2-pack of FRS radios. Currently available on Amazon for $72.99, and there is a 5% off coupon if you want to clip that as well. Obviously, you know, this is highly subject to change, so if you see this video a couple weeks even, or definitely months or years down the line, that might be completely different. So as always, the link will be in the description below if you want to check it out. So these are FRS radios. They can handle the full 22 channel spread of all the FRS frequencies. And there's several different reasons why I chose these radios, but I'll get into that in a minute. They do pack a lot of features, but first let's just go over what comes in the box. So you've got your charging base station right here, which has a micro USB connector on the back. Then you've got a micro USB cable. You've got your radios. You've got 6 rechargeable AA's. These are nickel metal hydride. You've got 2 belt clips, your instructions, and underneath you've got 2 separate sets of headsets and sort of sound tube. I don't know what those are called, but you guys I'm sure will tell me what those are called in the comments. I'm not really a radio enthusiast, so but yeah, so you get that as well. Now, you don't actually get an AC adapter in the box, but given that everybody has, I'm sure, at least one spare AC adapter for various phones and stuff they've had over the years, I think if that saved us a little extra cost in the box, I'm not really complaining, especially since a lot of times the chargers they include with these radios and products like this are usually not the best quality. I'm not really complaining. If that saves them a little cost and, you know, they can put the money elsewhere or give us a better price, I'm cool with that. Now, just briefly, before we get into the interface and the testing and the features, you know, and showing you how everything works, I just want to discuss exactly why I went with these when there are so many options on the market for inexpensive or sort of high value proposition FRS radios in the market. So first, why FRS? Well, I mean, I could have gone with MERS or CB or something like that, since I'm trying to go with something that's unlicensed, because I just don't really want to deal with the hassle of all that. But the problem for me is that, you know, there comes more complications, and FRS radios are some of the easiest to use. This is something that you can even hand to somebody who's completely technologically uninformed, and, you know, they're just not good with tech. It doesn't matter, right? You could set the channel on here and then just say, hey, don't touch anything, and then there's your push to talk button, and that's as simple as that. And especially for me, being that there's so many options for FRS radios on the market in terms of, you know, lots of features or very simple and you know 1 or 2 button models and that sort of thing, it makes it very easy for me to customize the actual device at the end of the day to, you know, cater to super simplistic needs for people that might not, again, be experts with this sort of thing. So that's part of the reason why. Now, with regards to these, there's lots of reasons, but I think the biggest all-around factor is they're just so all-encompassing. They truly have a lot of features packed in at an incredible price, and features that not a lot of other units have, and actually some of the name brand units don't even have. So now, just for the record, I will say, since I mentioned brand, these are branded GOCOM, but if you look up the Retevis RT49P, you'll see that they're basically exactly the same, with the exception that they are a neon green instead of a forest green. Now, me personally, I prefer the forest green a lot, but I can see that the neon green would actually be helpful if you were to go hiking or something like that, and you might drop this in the woods. This might disappear, right? You might not be able to find this very easily. Whereas the neon green, it's going to be pretty obvious. But I just prefer this color, but I'll leave the link below for the Retevis if for some reason you'd rather buy from them. But I'm telling you guys, it's the same radio. In terms of features, let's go over them because there's a lot, and almost all of these factored into why I chose these. So number one, water resistance. Very few FRS radios actually have water resistance, and these are not only rated as water resistant, but they actually have an IP rating. These are rated IP67. So, if you know anything about the IP scale, IP67 means that these are capable of being submerged for up to 30 minutes at like over 3.5 feet. So that's pretty good. I mean, I don't plan on submerging these at all, but that's already pretty good. But then here's another bonus. They float. So these float in water. So not only will they survive water contact, but if you drop it into a deep body of water, they're not going to sink to, one, where it's so deep that they start leaking, or two, that you can't get to them again. So that's great. And then here's another great water feature. They have a water activated light at the bottom. So this flashlight right here will start flashing upon contact with water. And how cool is that? So basically, if you drop this in a deep body of water, not only is it not going to kill it, it's not going to sink, and you'll be able to find it even if it's pitch black outside. So that's pretty cool. Another critical feature for me was the ability to scan the NOAA weather channels. So these can scan, I think it's 10 or 11 channels, but either way, these can scan all the NOAA weather channels, and that's important for me to be able to monitor the weather situation in my area, even if I have no internet or no cell service, right? So that's critical for me. And this has even an alert feature that will basically automatically switch. If it detects a weather transmission on one of the NOAA channels, it will automatically switch to that, even if you've got, your standard, FRS channel or something like that you've set and you're just using it as a walkie-talkie, it'll transfer to that automatically. So that's pretty cool. Lastly, the big feature for me was the rechargeability via USB. So this thing has a USB port on the side here. It's a micro USB port, as you can see. And this means that I can recharge these anywhere without needing to remove the batteries or without having to use the charging station. Now, this is going to be great for setting up at home, but if you're out on the go, you're traveling or whatever, the last thing you want to do is take this thing with you everywhere, especially if let's say you're in a vehicle or something like that. Having the ability to just plug in a micro USB cable, it can't be understated. You could recharge this from a power bank, from a solar source. Basically, you could have a solar panel that charges a power bank, that sort of thing. So that is incredible. And about the only downside for me was that these don't have a lithium battery option. So now this could be a plus or minus, a bonus or a downside, depending on how you see it and what side of the argument you're coming from. But these use rechargeable nickel metal hydride AA's. Now, I'm sure you guys, that are for these already, I can hear you in the comments. That's a pro because you can easily find replacement batteries and they're not proprietary. And so anybody can find them online or even in store, and you won't have to worry about, if the batteries die, you can just buy a replacement instead of having to buy a proprietary lithium ion pack. Totally, I agree with you. I'm with you there. But the downside for me is that nickel metal hydride batteries in general don't have as great cold performance or longevity and capacity in terms of just energy density as lithium batteries, right? So even if they were able to make these lithium AA's, that would have worked. Or they could have used what some other radio manufacturers are using, which is sort of a common generic lithium cell that is sort of a flat, it's basically a flat cell, sort of like a reinforced pouch cell, but it's a common size, right? It's a generic size. Anyone can look it up. It's not, proprietary or anything. And they were able to fit that in under the base cover. But again, I think part of the reason why this is still the design they're sticking with is it's inefficient, but I think there's a reason for that. And that's that simple fact that you need enough air inside the unit to make it float, right? It's not going to float if there's no air in there. So if the battery was too, space efficient and compact, there simply wouldn't be enough air behind this cover to allow it to float. And the only other downside I can think of is I would have really loved to see a knob on the top here instead of just the push buttons. I just think it's much easier to control volume and turn the radio on and off quickly with a knob. It's more intuitive. It's easier to do without looking at the unit, obviously. But I'm not going to complain because I do understand that it's fundamentally much more difficult to make a knob waterproof than flat buttons. So these buttons here are much easier to make waterproof or water resistant than a knob would. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get those batteries in there. It should be pretty easy. We've just got to remove this rear cover here. These are just standard flathead screws, and you know, don't hate me too hard for not having the an actual screwdriver here with me. I've just got my multi-tool here, so it'll have to do. But I think that should be pretty good. Yep, we're good. So you can see there how this whole thing works. You've got your gasket that goes around the inside there. I don't know if you can see that. So that interfaces with this lip. There's a little bit of plastic in here. Let's clean that out. We definitely don't want that getting caught up in the gasket. And then your batteries just go in there. If we take a look here, you've got your FCC ID and all that. The model G9. Again, this looks really, really similar, i.e. identical to the Retevis RT49P. But anyway, let me go ahead and open up these batteries. All right, let's go ahead and pop these in. And let's make sure there's no dust on this cover or the radio. We want a good seal. And then we'll get these screws back down. And you don't want to kill these, you just want to get them snug. All right, there we go. Let's pull off this screen protector. And let's see how they power on, see if there's any juice in these batteries. All right, you got power. So I'll tell you what, guys, so that I can give you the most efficient walkthrough of the interface, the features, and all that, I'm gonna go ahead and get myself acquainted with these radios, and then I'll hop back in and show you guys the interface. All right, guys, so I've had some time to play with these radios, and so now I wanna run you guys through the basics of the interface, how to use them, what I like about them, what I don't like, and what I think they could change. So with that being said, let's get into this. So to turn on these units, obviously, as you saw before, you press and hold the power button until the display lights up, and then it'll boot up. Now, I don't know if you just heard that, but it gives you a little confirmation tone when it turns on. I hate push tones like this and button tones. It's just incredibly annoying to me, and so I always disable it. And I was looking for a way, but luckily there is a way, and I'll show you how. So if you want to disable this, you're gonna have to reboot the radio, but it can be done. So here's what you do. You shut down the radio, and then press and hold down the down arrow, and then press and hold the power button until it boots up. And keep holding, and you'll see no more tones. So that's how I'd run it. Obviously, if you're somebody that's working out in the field, it's super loud, and you want that confirmation of button presses and that sort of thing, then by all means, I'm not judging you. You got to do what works for you. But for me, I just find it incredibly annoying, so I turn it off. Another thing, the display, you'll notice, times out pretty quick. Unfortunately, there's not really any way to change that, but that's just the way it is. To activate the flashlight, you just press on the flashlight or the lamp button, and it's super quick. It's just a quick press, no hold required. Obviously, there's some pros and cons with that. If you want to access the weather bands for the NOAA weather bands, then you'll want to press and hold that same button. So you'll see that lamp is the bottom line. You'll see that it says lamp, but above it, there's sort of a picture of a storm cloud, right, with some lightning in it. Press and hold that down, and then you'll enter the NOAA weather band. Now, and press and hold again to exit. Unfortunately, in my area, the reception is terrible for the NOAA broadcast. So in order for me to actually get it, I have to be in a certain part of my house or outside my house. But it does work. I tried it. Just the reception in my area has just never been great for that sort of thing. Really for anything, honestly. Cell phones included. Okay, let's talk about changing the channel. So obviously you press down on the menu button just once, and you can cycle your primary channel. If you press again, you can cycle your security codes now, or your privacy code. Now, obviously, it's not really a privacy code. Really, all it does is block out other transmissions on the same channel. But make no mistake, you are still operating. If like you see my my radio set on 15 right now, if I transmit, it's still going to transmit on 15. And somebody that's listening to the channel 15 with 0 of these privacy codes can hear everything that's being transmitted on that channel. So basically, don't treat it. It's not privacy. It's traffic management, if you want to call it that. Basically, it's to clean up the frequency so that you can communicate freely with somebody else on a congested network. If you're in an uncongested area, though, you know, there's probably no need, right? Although I have found some of the upper bands, so we're talking like probably 19 through 22, I found there's some interference, weirdly enough, with the NOAA weather bands, at least in my area. So, you know, your mileage may vary. You're gonna have to see what's going on in your field of operations, if you will. Now, if you want to do a monitor of the frequency, obviously to see if there's, you know, any weak signals that aren't making it through, you can just press and hold down on this button over here. Once the screen is on, you have to wait for that, and then you can see, you press and hold, I'm now breaking through, and I can see and scan around for any weak signals. Now, if you want to just scan, you can just press and hold, and you'll see, you quick press rather, and you'll see that it's now scanning through all the different channels. And to stop it, you can either press it again, or you can also press the push to talk button. If we want to go and change our call tone, so I've already changed this one on here, so I'll go ahead and press it, and you'll hear it on this other radio as well as this radio. You just press and hold that button real quick, the power button, and it'll send the call tone. Now, this is something that I do like. There's a ton of call tones, so you know, if you want to have a unique identifier for everyone in your group, you could have 20 radios, and every single person can have their own unique tone. Now, I don't know how useful that is. I mean, if you're going to remember all these tones, but nonetheless, I do like that there's that many. So how you do that is you go through your menu option, you go past there, again, press once to change the channel, press once again to change your privacy code, press it again, and this is where you change your call tone. So right now it's on 10. If I go up, you'll see that there's 20 of them, and then of course you can turn it off. So you have a wide selection, which I really like. If you go here, you have your voice activation. Again, I would never use that, but if you do want to use that, that is an option. Press again, you'll get to your 2-channel monitoring. So this allows you to monitor 2 channels at once, which is nice if you've got kids and they're going to be using a different channel because they want to have time away from the adults or something like that, and they want to have their own little kid thing. That allows you to set that up, so that's great. You can still check on them, make sure they're okay. Here you have your power settings, so you can put it on low or high power. If you're going to be working in a very close proximity to the other people, there's no need to drain your battery by pushing this thing to 2 watts for everything, so you can set it on low. But if you are going to need that distance and that maximum range, then you go ahead and put this on high power. And if you set it on high, then all the channels that are legally allowed to be boosted to 2 watts will do so. So that's nice. As far as the other features, the SOS is on the side here. If you just press and hold that orange button, there's no sound, but it'll activate the red light on the bottom, and this will actually flash out in Morse code, SOS. So that's pretty cool, and turning it off is easy. You just press once and it shuts right off. And also you'll see on the screen that once I get the SOS going, there's an indicator saying SOS mode is on. Again, is that super necessary? No, but it's a nice feature. I like it. Now you'll see on this unit, compared to this one, that there's a little storm cloud with an arrow. Let's see if I can get it to show up. All right, my bad, guys. I was just trying to get the screens to come on because the timeout is so short. You can see there that storm cloud with a little exclamation mark next to it, whereas this one doesn't. I simply set up a NOAA weather alert there. So basically what you can do is you can have it, if a weather alert goes out to the NOAA station, it'll immediately switch over to the NOAA radio band, even if you're on standard FRS mode and you're using it as a walkie-talkie. If a weather alert comes through, it'll switch over. And the way you do that, all right, so I'll do it on this one I haven't set up yet. So basically, to get into your NOAA weather bands here, you're just gonna press and hold on this button on the bottom. That's gonna get into your weather bands here. And then once in the menu, you're gonna push the menu button. That allows you to change the channel. Press it again, and that'll activate your alert. You'll see it says OF for off. Just hit ON for on. Hit the menu button again, and then exit by pressing and holding again. And you'll see now this also has the weather notification set up. So basically that just gives you the peace of mind that if it ever picks up a weather alert, it will automatically bring that to your attention, which is very nice. Again, very nice features. All right, guys. Last thing. I know I talked about the water activated light, but I do want to show you that that is a legit feature. So here's how we're going to do that. I'm going to use my multi-tool, and basically these on the back are the charging contacts for the battery. But on the bottom, you'll see there's two more contacts, and you'll be like, what's that? Well, that's for that water activated light. So basically, when this enters any sort of conductive liquid, water being conductive liquid, you'll see that light comes on, and once activated, it starts flashing. But it's easily turned off if you just push the lamp button again and then push it again. So you double press that, it goes straight off. But it's nice that it's blinking, so it's not just a light, but it's actually flashing to draw your attention to it. So like I said, you drop this in the water, and it's not going to sink, it's going to float, and it's going to bring your attention to it with that light. So a small feature, but if you work near water, my God, that is going to be an invaluable feature. All right, guys. Hold on. I don't know if I showed you the scan feature. Let me just quickly run that down for you. To scan through the channels, you just press this button, and you'll see that it's going to scan all these channels for a transmission. And then if I go ahead and I set this radio to channel 15. I'm going to go ahead and hit the scan button, and you'll see here that it's now found channel 15. So very good performance on these. So now that I've given you guys a basic rundown of how these things work and explained to you the interface, I want to go over just a few things that I didn't like and a few things I think they can change. First, to you guys, this might seem like an incredibly small nitpick that's basically useless, but to me, it's important. The lowest volume setting on here is simply not low enough. And while working outside or outdoors, it may make no sense whatsoever, and you might just want the most volume possible to overcome external noise. If I want to quietly monitor this radio and still be able to hear transmissions without disturbing the peace, so to speak, I really can't do that because the lowest volume setting on here is still incredibly loud. And that's frustrating, and I understand that it doesn't have a dial, so it's not going to have that fine adjustment that you would with a dial, but nonetheless, I would really prefer another setting. So you'll see here, if I adjust the volume, it's on 1 right now. And if I go ahead and speak into it, I'm going to speak into the other radio so you can hear. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3. So that's still pretty loud, and that's just on the lowest setting. And especially when you get any static, so let's say you're trying to check the monitor here, and you're going to break through that frequency, or the other radio calls you for any reason, that's incredibly loud. And I have sensitive hearing, so I thought maybe it was just me. So I asked other people, they said the same thing. It's not just me. So I know it's a little bit of a nitpick, but if I want to be able to monitor this for incoming transmissions in a quiet environment, it's basically impossible for me to do that. The only way I can is to either cover the speaker, right, with my hand, which is both tiring and inconvenient, or turn the volume all the way down to 0, so nothing comes out of it, and then just check the screen for activation and an incoming signal sign, right? So if I get an incoming transmission, then I can turn the volume back up and listen. But, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, if nothing else, if you can't give me more granularity, right, if you can't give me finer increments of volume adjustment, then maybe just give me one more volume adjustment and say, all right, we'll make, between the 1 that we have now and the 0 that we have now, we'll put one more segment. That's all I need. You know what I mean? So, because it gets incredibly loud, right? And that's fine. And that's great. And so when you need that extra volume, it's there. but when you need it to be quiet, you can't get it quiet, and that's what's really frustrating. Another thing, the light, super easy to activate, right? You just push the button, but that's kind of a double-edged sword, because when this is clipped on your belt, if you rub against something or you push against something, chances are you're going to end up turning that on, and that could get annoying, especially if you're trying to, stay more under the radar, or you're just trying to not draw attention to yourself. Like, let's say you're going out hunting or something, I don't know, and you end up pushing this light on, that's not good, right? So, there are pros and cons to the easy access light. The other thing, I think I already touched on this. I would have loved to see this thing be able to take lithium batteries. So, if that's in the cards or in the works or even possible, that's great. If for no other reason than to maximize both charge efficiency, because, lithium batteries are the most efficient when it comes to converting charge input into actual stored energy. And also just energy density. Lithium batteries of the same size as these AA's could hold a lot more power and therefore give a radio this size a lot more runtime. So there's just that. Also, cold performance is going to be a lot better with lithium batteries than nickel metal hydrides. The last thing that I really can nitpick about, because again, guys, we are getting into nitpick territory, the clip. The clip is just not very secure. Like, it's nice. This part, the plastic is okay, but you can see there, the way it works is it just slides on. Okay, it slides into place, and you say, well, okay, that's not too bad, but look at how little plastic, look at that tiny ridge that's responsible. It's this right here. That's it. So that little ridge is all that's stopping this clip from sliding up right off of the back here, right? I'm sorry, but I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that. So, especially since this is not nylon reinforced plastic of any kind, it's just standard plastic. So, I don't have a whole lot of faith that this clip isn't going to give out if, even a nice good slap against it or something happens to the radio. So I would love to see a more secure clip. I mean, you could have this initial attachment system, but then still have a supplemental screw or something that goes in there to secure it. And then it would be fine. So there's that. But otherwise, I'm actually really happy with this radio. There's pros and cons. The display timeout, like I've said before, it's awfully short. I'm not a huge fan of that. It would be cool if you could change the Roger tones as well, but that's not an option. But really, that's pretty much it. So again, if you're interested in checking these out, I will leave a link in the description. I'll also leave a link for the identical Retevis models. And as always, guys, if you like the video, be sure to give me a like. If you have any questions, comments, or your own experiences with these GOCOM or Retevis models, definitely leave that in the comments below. And as always, if you want to see more, don't forget to get subscribed.